Hey, entrepreneurs, today we're talking about burnout and how to proactively avoid burnout instead of waiting until you start feeling burnout as your trigger to take a break. So here's the problem. Here's the trap that I see a lot of the entrepreneurs I work with get sucked into is that they wait until they start feeling the symptoms of burnout. And that becomes the trigger that allows them to remember that they should take 4 or 5 days off, take an extended weekend vacation and just wander in the woods with a friend and do things other than work. They come back feeling refreshed, motivated, excited about working, but they waited too long. They started having the diminished productivity from the early prodromal sort of features of burnout before they even noticed it was already having a negative impact on their productivity, their energy, and just your quality of life and your work satisfaction. So what I want you to do is I want you to reverse that so that by scheduling vacations in advance, psychologically, you're going to start to have some of the benefits of those vacations before you even take them. Because remember, burnout it's an emotional thing. It's not so much like a neurological thing. It's not like you used a muscle too much, you need to rest it. It's more like an emotion in the same way that motivation or drive operates less like a gas tank that needs to be refilled, and it operates more like anger or joy. You don't run out of anger or joy in the same way you don't run out of motivation. It has to do with the things you're telling yourself, the background narrative, whether or not you are meeting the needs of like that inner child part of you that just wants to play and have fun versus just grinding it out and working, and all you see on the horizon is more work. That starts to diminish your energy. So it's a psychological thing. And that's why by pulling out your calendar and in advance, setting some of the times when you're going to take short breaks, it actually makes you more productive before you've even taken the break because you know the break is coming. In fact, there's research that I reviewed years ago. I haven't refreshed my memory on it, so I may not have the details right. But there's evidence that those who plan their vacations far in advance, like buy a like all expenses paid sort of resort break for 5 days, have lower heart attacks than those who just take a vacation, when it's finally time, your boss is saying, look, you've got too many vacation days, use it. There's something about planning in advance, knowing that vacation is coming, that lowers your stress, keeps your blood pressure lower, keeps the inflammation in your body as a marker of stress lower. And so what I'm encouraging you to do is think about planning vacations in advance. And you can do that on a cadence, where you do that every 3 weeks, have a day off, or it could be every 3 months, you take 5 days off, or it could be, something where you say, I'm going to take at least this many weeks off during the course of a year. But knowing that you're going to have those breaks tends to reduce burnout. Not to mention the reduced burnout that comes from actually having the break and the improved quality of life and the variety of experiences it brings to you, the creative ideas that you come back from those breaks with. So that's the first thing I want you to think about. Second, let's talk about the two main obstacles that entrepreneurs run into when scheduling vacations. And the first one is just this feeling of guilt that, okay, I'm taking some time off, but my business partners and or my team, they're all working while I'm traveling through Europe for a week or two. And it creates this feeling of guilt that actually diminishes the restorative effects of taking some time off. We want to erase that guilt, because one thing we know for sure is that if you really deeply relax and you do that with your whole mind, where there's not this civil war going on, where you're kind of thinking I should be working, and then you also feel guilty because I should be relaxing, especially if you have a spouse or girlfriend or kids, it can amplify that feeling of stress all the time. Like I'm stressed if I'm working because I'm working too much and my family never sees me. And I'm stressed if I'm not working because there's stuff that's not getting done and my business partners are annoyed with me. We want to remove that. And so that requires that you have a proactive discussion where you frame with your partners, especially if you have business partners, this is important. This is an aspect of peak performance. It's not an afterthought. It's part of the plan for how we show up with energy and get things done, is that we schedule some time off, and you can create essentially just a bank that you pour into, just like what you can do on, say, Gusto with, your team or any payroll platform. You can add in, like, you earn, 0.2 hours of time off per day worked or per hour worked. I forget what the math is on that, but whatever that amount is, you can create that for yourself. Even though you may not be on payroll yourself, you can create a bank that you feed into. The days I work, I accumulate time off. When I take that, my partners then, they don't question it because they know if they're going to take time off later, that they're going to be tapping into their bank as well. And it's fair for everybody. The second aspect of that, in terms of setting expectation with team and with your partners, is to establish in advance what the expectations are with regard to your availability. Some people will go on a break, take a short vacation, traveling through Europe. They're seeing amazing sights, but they're carrying with them that guilt that diminishes the restorative aspect, because their partner has this idea that, well, sure, you're on vacation, but you still need to be responding to all of our Slack messages, and you should at least within 24 hours be getting back to us on these things. And other people go on vacation with this expectation of the opposite, that when I'm on vacation, I should be completely off grid. Like, you shouldn't be asking me any questions. When I come back, we'll deal with whatever it was you needed my help with. And so probably realistically for entrepreneurs, it's going to look a little different. It's going to be a combination where you set a threshold. You say anything below this threshold of emergency problem, we're losing $1,000 per minute scenario, you just don't contact me. Make it the best decision you can. Put it on my plate for when I come back. Anything above that threshold, here's how you get in contact with me. Instead of using the channels that we usually use to communicate about all the daily mundane stuff, use this other method that normally you wouldn't call me, or normally you wouldn't text me. Instead, you'd use Slack. So if I see a text message from you, I know I do need to respond because it's one of those things. Then your mind can be at ease because you know you don't need to be checking Slack to see if there's an emergency. And your partners know that, okay, I wanted to ask him or her about this, but they're on break. Nah, that's not an emergency. You can wait. And they can add it to a queue of things to check in with you about when you get back. So those are two ways to reduce some of the obstacles that come for entrepreneurs uniquely in the situation you're in, to reduce that negative impact of guilt when you are taking a break. So here's your challenge. This is your micro productivity challenge for this week. And I want you to take this seriously. It's easy to think, oh yeah, that's a cool idea, but then not do anything about it. Here's the practical implication. If you want to take action, get a full wall calendar, put it on your wall somewhere in your office, your apartment or house, whatever, and look at that in advance. Put in bright color the days that you're going to be taking off so that you can see it, so that psychologically you know that break is coming. It'll actually make you work faster. You'll be using Parkinson's law in reverse because you know, oh, I've only got so many days to finish up, wrap up this project, get it functional, operational, launch it before I take off on that vacation. It's going to feel so good to be traveling in Europe, knowing that that's operational. I finished it. So it actually increases your energy, makes you work faster and harder, not slower, to take these breaks. But then also you have the benefit of seeing that and knowing that the break is coming, which keeps your stress low because you know I can push myself hard now because I'll have time to relax later. So that's one strategy. Or just set a cadence. And by that, I just mean like every 3 months. If you're not going to plan a year in advance because things are too dynamic in your life, changing too fast, then set a recurring reminder in your to-do software or whatever you use to schedule the next break that you're going to take. And once in a while, you might rethink it and say, okay, I'm not going to take a break. And this month, I'm going to do double break coming up then because it'll be Thanksgiving and Christmas and all these people want to see me or whatever it is. But just having that reminder come up will prevent you from doing that mistake that we started with, where you wait until you've got burnout and then you start trying to think of how you can ameliorate that burnout and take a break, which often leads to doing things that aren't quite as fun because a lot of things require planning in advance, whether it's being with the people you care about or being there for events that are really fun or exciting to you. And so be proactive about this. Treat time off as part of your productivity plan. I'll see you again next week.